Hello and welcome to episode 441 of the Stacey West podcast. My name is Gary and today I am joined by Emily for what is being billed as a Gammerly special, which actually sounds like a knee complaint.
It does a bit, doesn't it? Somebody put Jarrally in the chat, which I think I prefer. But I do like how I'm getting all these so-called Stan names. I think that's what young people call them.
Oh, is it really? I can get Garrily. That sounds like, Garrily, going down the stream. But like I say, Gammerly does sound like I've got gout, and Germally or whatever. Gemily was definitely a cream for rashes. How are you anyway? How's your weekend been?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Yeah, it's been all right. I've had quite a nostalgic day today because it's my partner's daughter's 10th birthday this week. So there's a little bit of a birthday party happening at the weekend, next weekend. So I thought it would be worth giving them a lesson in classic 90s kids' birthday parties. So I've been teaching them Agadoo. I've been teaching them I Am the Music Man, Superman, basically a compilation of Black Lace specials, which were really were the kind of bedrock of my birthday parties growing up. And what I will tell you is it's so much easier doing all the actions to I Am the Music Man when you're 10, because trying to do them as a grown adult, I was puffing and blowing, to say the least. Hard work, but good fun and nostalgic.
I can't remember those. I can remember doing those at like family weddings in the 80s. Like, and Mum and Dad had a Black Lace album when they were together that like never got played. But I couldn't tell you the Music Man. The I Am Superman, is it, or something? I don't know. I don't know what all the actions are.
Yeah, I Am the Music Man. There's a good bit in the middle where you get to do match of the day and kind of wave your arms about, and then there's a Dambusters bit in the middle, which I enjoyed that bit the most because I think that resonates with us all a lot. But how have you been? I understand you've been very busy this week.
Yes. So this weekend has been a full-on working weekend for me. I really, from kind of Wednesday when the podcast dropped, it's just been utterly manic. I've not stopped. So obviously we did the game, and then on Friday I can reveal this now. On Friday I was invited to meet Ron Fowler, the incoming chairman, for an interview, which is it's kind of under embargo until later in the week. It's not just me. There was the other major media outlet, Radio Lincolnshire, were involved as well. So it was nice to go and meet Ron, do an interview, kind of get the feel for him. It was really good. And then Saturday there was more of a kind of an informal meet with Ron. And again, it's kind of the media thing, just to. It's like, I mean, all media is about relationships, isn't it? So that was really good. But obviously, we've got some time with Luke, the club media guy, who has literally bent over backwards for us recently. He's been phenomenal. And, you know, he said kind of yesterday, it's part of my job, keeping the media happy. But to have that, what's the word? Not affirmation, confirmation, justification, anything like that all of a sudden, like validation. There you go. All the Asians. I couldn't remember which one it was. But it's brilliant for us from the Stacey West. And then obviously a new sign-in first thing this morning. It's just like somebody said to me earlier, it's Sunday. And I'm like, I thought it was Monday. I thought yesterday was Sunday. I just, yeah. And honestly, my poor wife has been, because I promised her breakfast on Friday morning, and then it's like, this is an in-person meeting, right? Okay, right. We'll swap things around a little bit. So I took her in Lincoln and we had some breakfast. I said, Saturday we'll go do something. No, not Saturday. We can't now because I'm out for that as well. So yeah, but it's good. That's under embargo. So we've got a bit drop in tomorrow. I had a chat with Radio Lincolnshire. Sort of said, look, I'm not going to use any of your recorded content. So they'll have something out, and then ours will be completely different to what they have, but they'll cover some points, and ours will cover some other points. So yeah, that's worth looking forward to. If you're watching live, or you're listening kind of at some point on Monday, that's something to look forward to. If you're listening Tuesday or Wednesday, probably already maybe seen it. I don't know. We'll see what happens with embargo dates. Don't want to try and give too much away. yeah, I'm not aware of the fact it's been weekend, if I'm honest.
No, and it felt weird having a game on a Thursday. That threw me entirely, just timing wise. It felt like Christmas all over again.
Yeah,
But
it did.
the schedule's relentless, especially when you're working in the media.
It is. And do you know what? It's all good fun. I wouldn't change it for the world. I'm certainly not complaining. So, to be honest, like the game on Thursday night feels like it was a long time ago. It's like I sat down not to make notes as much because my notes are in here. I'm not a reams of paper man, as I said earlier. But to sit down and think about the game, it felt like writing something that had just been ages ago. But yeah, instead,
and lots happened since then.
it feels like it. Yeah, I've lit a lot of fires in the wood burner in an evening since then. So, but we are here to talk about Burton. So it'll be a little bit of a nice refresher. And actually, it's probably easier to talk about Burton now in the context of the rest of the weekend because you win a game that you should win, and if all the other results kind of go against you, you've trod water, and you can't look at it as we ground out a result, but it's just another game down. Whereas actually, we've gained points on Stockport, we've gained on Cardiff. If you think we're looking up, we've pushed Luton away quite a bit. We've gained on Bradford. The team that I think are our biggest danger did get 3 points, but it was only a last gasp goal, and their fans are not happy. So I feel more comfortable now about the Burton result than I probably did after Burton. Like after Burton, it was relief. We've got through it. Now you've kind of forgotten what the context of the game was, which we're going to talk about. It was 3 points, and you look at the table, don't you? Do you think that that's at the point that performances in September seem really important, but you come to where we are now, heading into February, and we go in, just win the games?
Yeah, and I totally agree with that. And I posted on X after the game, and my point there was it's 3 points, and nobody will remember that performance. I think a lot of people were coming away grumbling about the performance, despite the fact we got 3 points. And yeah, my point is the same as yours. Nobody's going to remember that when it comes down to it, because it's the points that matter, and they were a massive 3 points on Thursday night.
They were. So let's pick apart the game like we're picking over the carcass of a turkey left over at Christmas, looking for the little bits of meat that we can take away and devour. There is probably a little bit less meat on the carcass, but no fewer talking points than any of the games previously. Now, in terms of starting 11, I don't think there was any question really. I did my starting 11 video. There's no choices with Tom Bayliss out and Ben House out. They're the two players that kind of add a bit of context. With the 3 loan players that have gone back, they add a little bit of depth as well. So, it was inevitable that we were still going to have Lewis Monsma on the bench, who realistically probably won't play for us again. We've still got a keeper on the bench who realistically doesn't get on. The young lad Okawoy, who I think is probably featuring on the bench, dare I say, for the last time, unless something really picks up. He hasn't had smashing loans, but there wasn't really any choice. For the first time this season, you knew what you were going to get.
And that, you know what, Gary, you've stolen my sandwiches, because that is exactly what I was going to say. And I do tune into your starting 11 videos, and as you were running through who you think would play where, I was in total agreement with every single one. Yes, 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 because it seemed so obvious. And I think that, and I don't want to say that you're doing a job that's really obvious and easy, but I think that's actually a really good thing. And I was talking about it with my dad in the car on the way to the game on Thursday, was that we've got a really consistent starting 11. And yeah, there's injuries, which meant people have come in and out. But, aside from that, it is so consistent, and you almost 100% like with certainty can predict what that 11 is going to be. And I think that's just so important this season. I think that's really something that I think is different from last season, because I think I made a remark. It may have been on the podcast, it may have been in my own personal life, to say that I don't know what Lincoln City's best 11 was last season, and I don't think Skubala does either, because it changed so frequently. But I think that this season, that's really something that is consistent, and that can only be beneficial. And I can only assume that is one of the reasons why we are maybe where we are in the league as well. So yeah, no surprises. Consistency is key. It's good. So yeah.
I kind of agree and disagree with that, because I think consistency across the back four and just in front of the back four is important, especially if especially from a goalkeeper's point of view. And we saw with Josh Griffiths a couple of years ago that as soon as I did an article, I think we'd had something like 28 different combinations of defence in front of Josh Griffiths, and we conceded goals to that effect. The following season in front of Carl Rushworth, it was fairly settled and we kept things out. I actually think going forward, I'm not particularly saying consistency isn't important, but having the deeper options and not quite knowing what they're going to do. The way Michael operates, he's quite a tactician, isn't he? And I think he's got a big toolbox that he's not afraid to use. That's not a euphemism, but yeah, he's got lots of different kind of approaches he can take. And so the more players he has at his disposal, the harder it is for teams to go, what's he going to play? He's a tinker man. He's admitted he's a tinker man. Fans like to see consistency. I like just to see whatever gets us winning games. And at the moment, I think from the consistency point of view, it's certainly benefiting a player who, let's jump in. Let's not do the chronological thing. Let's just jump in to a point I want to make. Freddie Draper's been brilliant, and he's really benefiting from that, not being taken off at 60 minutes and then coming on for 20 the next game. He's there. He's our number 9. He's starting. And I thought he was superb at Luton. But I actually think he was hugely underrated against Burton, because that was a battle. It was attritional. He set up the first goal for an assist, no matter what Y-Scout tried to tell you. I thought it was McGrandles in my write-up, but he's created the first goal. His shot is parried for the second goal. He's pulled all over the place. His shirt's ripped off his back. He's given just as much back. He's a man now. And he's a man I wouldn't want to fight. I mean, I don't want to fight anybody. But you know what I mean? He's a nasty bugger. He really is. He's Matt Reed, but with the benefit of youth and hair. And I think he benefits more from the consistency. Keep playing him. Keep him in that number 9 position. Whoever we sign, they can come on 70, 80 minutes. For me, Fred Draper, number 9, rest of the season.
Yeah, I totally agree. I thought his performance at Burton just continued the excellent performance that he had at Luton. Physical, strong, but also, with that quality as well. You've got a bit of both with Fred. It's really good. And I mean, all game long, he was receiving the ball, holding it up and just playing really neat little layoffs, whether it was kind of with his chest or a little flick on and we'll go into the goal, I'm sure. But yeah, that assist, just picking up the ball, holding it off and laying it off to Moylan. He did that all game. So yeah, I agree. He had a fantastic performance in what was a very physical battle of a game. And we joked, when they do the super draw during the game and you can win a match-worn shirt, we were saying, well, if it's Freddie Draper's, it'll be in 2 bits, because they were pulling and tugging on it all night. And he doesn't get a lot for it, does he? He doesn't get a lot. He's one of those, that's very Matt Reed, never got a lot of the fouls, the free kicks, but a lot given against him, whether that's just because of his frame or whatever, I don't know. But it's great to see Fred doing so well.
Yeah, I think I would also like to pick up that he does do a fair bit of clever stuff himself. Like he backs in quite a bit. Sometimes I watch him as the ball. So if a ball comes up and over, I'm sometimes then looking where it's going to land rather than at the ball. I know that people look at different things at different times. Don't we? We all see football differently. And I look sometimes at as he's about to receive the ball. And there's so many times where he looks at the ball as it's coming down, but then he's looking at the player and he's backing in, or he's trying to get himself round, or he's trying to use his body. And I think when you're the sort of player that uses your body, you are going to commit fouls, and you have to probably expect that you're not going to get some. I mean, I looked at the number of fouls that are committed in League One, and strikers commit more fouls than defenders. Well, how can that possibly be? Because the strikers are looking to receive the ball, and it's defenders looking to stop them. So are we thinking that looking to receive the ball costs more fouls? I'm not so sure. I think there's a referee perception on that, and it's the same with goalkeepers, which hasn't got any relevance to Burton. But if 2 players go up for a header and there's a clash, the referee gives nothing. If a keeper goes up with a centre forward and there's a clash, it's an immediate kind of free kick. And Chris would disagree with me, but keepers are just fannies. Like as soon as George Wickens was probably at fault. He punches himself in the chest against Luton, goes down, he gets the foul given against him. Someone does that on the pitch, the referee's not going to have a look. And I think that that's why Fred gets free kicks given against him. He is a little bit clever. He does get pulled all over the place. But, you know, would we want free kicks given for us if we were also going to have them given against us every time we pulled shirts? I'm not so sure.
No. I think that physicality and the way that he does that with his game, I actually think that, yeah, even though it does concede fouls, I think that the benefits of him doing it outweigh those fouls, those niggly fouls that he does give away completely. So yeah, good old Fred, good young Fred, such a youngster.
He is such a youngster. So I think before we talk about the goal, I want to talk about Burton, because they came to us without their talisman in Charlie Webster, couldn't play JJ McKeon, and I like Tyrese Shade up top for them. He wasn't in. They've got young kids in. One of them, I think Dylan Williams, is an academy product of theirs. I thought he was really good. I actually really rated them, and I think their manager let them down at the end with his antics, which we'll come on to, because it was a physical game. The young lad Adam up top caused us some issues early doors, caused Sonny Bradley some issues, which I think that was before the goals, so we'll come on to that. I thought that they came and they played their part. There's a reason they've won 4 of their last 4 visits to Sinsel Bank before this, because whoever's in charge of them, they seem to have that same thing. And once the manager Patson came in and tried to change them, they tried to turn them into a footballing team. They plummeted. Gary Boyer comes in. Let's be physical. Let's be aggressive. Let's do what we do well. Yeah, and I thought that they did that well. I thought they were a worthy opponent that belied their league position.
Yes, I thought they reminded me of like a crap version of us in some ways, in that I felt that they were well organised, actually. And, they came to us, and I think Skabala said this actually in his post-match interview. A lot of teams are going to be coming to us and they're going to show up because of where we are in the league. They're going to show up. They're going to change the way that they play potentially in order to get a result from us. So I think Burton turned up. They were well organised. They were hard to break down. I think they wanted to they had to make the game difficult for us to win, and they absolutely did that. I thought they looked like they were going to be a threat on the counter attack. You mentioned Adam. He had the run on Bradley a couple of times, and particularly there's one moment really early on where I thought, oh, hang on a minute. So he looked dangerous. I thought both their forwards looked dangerous, actually. Beasley at number 9 just looked like one of those physical handful type players, maybe a bit likened to Fred, but obviously not as good. I really thought that they knew what they had to do, turned up and did it reasonably well, because that's why it was such a difficult game to watch at times. That's because Burton were doing their job pretty well. But of course, we just managed to take what we need. So we kind of came out on top, obviously. But yeah, I agree with you. Their league position, they could maybe be doing better than where they are. And you could see why they've definitely picked up those results against the bigger teams, so to speak, and apart from us.
Yeah, I'd be looking to loan them Lewis Monsmer. I'd be looking to give them anything they want now till the end of the season, because they're a team that can affect the promotion race by doing what they do against the bigger clubs. Before we talk about goals, let's talk about the obvious key incidents, which were the penalty shout against Sonny Bradley. I think it was Adam that tried to get the better of him. They were climbing over each other. I thought the foul probably was on Bradley first off. There's no doubt there's a shirt pull in the area, but the referee waved it away. Now, Gary Bowyer was incandescent with rage, I think, at the end of the game about that, saying we should have had a Stonewall penalty. We've got Lincoln fans in the chat as we're recording saying should have had a Stonewall penalty. Before we go on to any other incident, if that's not given against you, are you incandescent with rage as well?
Probably. I think probably because I think the shirt pull is so obvious. It's a real obvious pull of the shirt that takes their attacker, completely out of his momentum. But there is a foul on Bradley in the build-up, and it's subtle and it's soft, but you've seen them given. It's an arm on the shoulder. You feel it and you go down. It's a foul. They get given week in, week out. So, on the kind of I was going to say black and white. It never really is black and white, is it? I would say the foul is on Bradley first, and that is why it is not a penalty. But as a fan, I would be cross. I would be cross with that. But it is worth saying the ref didn't give either. He didn't wave away the penalty because he's given a foul on Bradley. He didn't actually give either. So that's sort of an interesting one. What's your take on it?
Yeah, well, he let a lot go, without a doubt, including for viewers at home, this picture courtesy of Carl Mercer. That's his television. So for those of you listening at home, on the screen, I have just put a picture of Dom Jeffries, probably a foot and a half away from the bottom of his shirt, which is being pulled off his back. There's enough gap, I think, to park a Fiat 500 up his back and put the shirt over the top of it. So there's a massive shirt pull there. That's in the area. That's a penalty. I mean, it is. That's a penalty. The Wigan referee, we drew 2-2, gave a penalty for that, but he didn't give it for this. Why? Because he was being consistent. And do you know what? Rightly or wrongly, one of the things I've always said about referees is consistent. If you're not going to give a penalty to them for Sonny Bradley, whether it was or whether it wasn't, but he's made the decision it's not. And so likewise, he's then made the decision up the other end it's not. So at least it's a level playing field. And that's what annoyed me about Gary Bowyer's post-match, is that he's ranting and raving, but there is something up the other end. Look, I always try not to have rose-tinted glasses on. So if there's something like that, like the penalty, the Luton foul for the guy, yeah, it's a foul. I thought it was a foul on the keeper. I've watched it back. It's not, and we say it's not. Red rose-tinted glasses have to come off. So if it's a penalty on Bradley, it's a penalty on Jeffries. And then is it a penalty on Deriqua when he's taken out in the first half as well? So, there's a lot of people saying that the referee was crap. I actually thought he was all right. I didn't think he was too bad at all. Like loads of people are saying there's loads of shirt pulling. There is. If it's a penalty every time his shirt is pulled in the box in League One this season, every team would have had 10 penalties and faced 10 penalties.
Yeah, no, I think you're right with that. I think in the moment, that referee was frustrating in the moment because you do have those red and white tinted glasses on.
Yes, you do.
I also think that Bowyer's just a bit. I also just think he's a bit of a miserable sod, if I'm being completely honest. Am I allowed to say sod? He's just a bit of a miserable sod. There was a really great clip of him on the Sky coverage walking out pre-match, and just had his hood right up and like his sort of collar done right up to his nose. You can just sort of see his eyes, and I just thought, you just look bloody miserable, mate. And I know the weather was miserable, but yeah, not a fan of what he came out with.
No, we're going to come to the end of the game later, and Bowyer's going to feature again, by the way. A couple of things I didn't realise that chatting to BBC Radio Lincolnshire's Rob Makepeace yesterday made me a little bit more aware. So the goal is an attritional game. There's not much to cheer. I sent the Stacey West group chat a message saying this has got 0-0 written all over it. And 5 minutes later, the magic man himself pops up. Like you say, actually, everybody's raving about Jack's shot. And I think when it goes in off the post, there's always a bit more satisfaction. Reach's volley. Would it have been as good if it had just hit the back of the net? No, because he's hit the post and there's that. I like that. So it's gone in off the post. Great strike from Jack. Not sure he's caught it sweetly, actually. I think he may have slightly shanked it. I don't know. I hope Stu doesn't clip that up and put it on Instagram because Jack follows us and engages. But good play from Fred, and it just lit up the night, just briefly, like through the mizzle and the cold. It was like this moment of brilliance. You just go, that's it. Now we're going to win this game comfortably.
Yes, it was a miserable, cold, wet evening weather-wise, and I think that made the game difficult. The game almost matched it. The game was difficult and kind of boggy and all that kind of stuff that matched the weather. There's a word for that. Is it pathetic fallacy? I don't know. But and I think that really was a shining light in that moment. It was, I've mentioned the layoff from Fred, which was just, he was doing it all night long, and it was just a daisy cutter, really, wasn't it? Along the turf, off the post and in from Moylan. And he's got that in his locker. He's got the it's not always consistent, I don't think, with Jack. I don't think he's a bright spark for 90 minutes week in, week out, but he has moments. We talk about, people say it, don't they? Football's about moments, and he brings those moments. So we know he's got it in his locker. So it was great to see him actually find the back of the net and score with it. And we were criticising, or I was criticising our defence against Luton for leaving their player acres of space when they scored their goal. But Moylan found himself in acres of space and, reaped the rewards.
Now, so often at Sincil Bank, we've seen a goal go in and then we've gone straight up the other end and scored. I think Barnsley and Cardiff and Doncaster, I think, were 3 I may be wrong there, but I feel like we conceded. It might not have been a Doncaster, but we conceded and then went straight up and scored quite quickly. I don't think that's something that we've had an issue with. Like, we get a lead and we do fight for it. I know we've lost leads, but, like, it was last minute against Blackpool. It was last minute against Bolton when we played Burton earlier in the season. Northampton, we fought. You don't expect this Lincoln team to score so quickly, to concede rather so quickly after scoring. Now, on the Not the Top 20 podcast, they call Jake Beasley Jake X Geesley because he's always in the 6-yard area picking up the high XG goals. Inexplicable defending for me from Bradley. I'm not sure if the cross comes in. I didn't think there was danger. And I'm not sure, he pulls back from the header. So I'm not sure if he's thinking, if I head this, it's going towards the keeper and it might go in. I'm not sure if he's worrying about heading it into the danger area. I'm not sure if he just doesn't see Beasley coming in behind him and thinks, I think it's not Tom Jeffries. I don't think he's got a player just to his right. It might be Tom Hames who's got a player behind him. But he just pulls his head away. And then really Beasley just has to touch it in the same way that Rob Street had to touch it at Luton. He just has to put any part of his body on it and it goes in the back of the net.
Yeah, I thought it was a poor goal to concede, really. I think, defensively, I'm not entirely sure who was supposed to be doing what and where, but it just looked way off to me in that 6-yard area, who was supposed to be picking up who, and it just looked like everybody was in the wrong place at the wrong time. It kind of reminded me of one of the goals we conceded against Peterborough, where they fired a cross into the far post, and I think Deriqua lost his man, and it was just a sort of quite an easy finish from close range. Yeah. It reminded me of that, in that it had gone all the way across the area, and there was just a kind of free man there to tap it in. So, yeah, disappointing at that point. And I think we were really in total control of the game, even though it was difficult, even though it was scrappy, even though there wasn't a lot of quality. I felt like we were in total control up until they scored that goal.
Yeah. Now, I think that the thing to take away from the game and the real show of character was actually for us to come back and go again after that concession, because it's not like a game where there was loads of chances and we score and you think, well, we're going to score again. There had been very few chances, and Jack Moylan's effort was, let's face it, if we were looking at XG, like a 1 in 90 times it goes in or whatever. So, it's low XG. They score. And I just think on that sort of night against that sort of team, you've gone ahead, you've had the life then sucked straight out of you with another goal. They were lively. They wanted to hit us on the break. You've mentioned about Dom's pace going forward. So I think for us to then come back and get back into the game again is a real show of our character, especially when, Burton they were a decent side. They were a classic kind of, like you say, a poorer version of us, but like a classic League One will always just survive kind of side. So it was for me, I was really, really impressed with our character after that goal.
Yeah, definitely. That game was all about character, because it wasn't really about quality, was it? It was all about character. And on the Sky coverage, they just as we scored our second goal, they had the stats up about action areas in the first half, and only 14% of the action was taking place in Burton's third, which is interesting. So obviously they were having most of the ball was in the middle of the park or in our defensive third. So we weren't really doing a great deal, but we managed to cut through. We managed to get our second goal, which was another fantastic move, combining Draper and Moylan again.
But it was actually a really nice move, because if you rewind it all the way back, I think Adam Reach involved with the cross, I seem to think, and it kind of started with some work on the ball with Moylan in the middle of the park. Who, yeah, Jack might drift in and out of games, but he's just that little bit of something different that we don't really have from any other of our players. Really, I think Tom Bayliss has got the capability, but he's a little bit more controlled. Jack is just someone that will go, right, I'm going to run with this. I'm going to try this pass. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. He is a little live wire. It doesn't always come off, but you can always forgive a player like that when it doesn't come off. There's elements of his game that are quite like a Teddy Bishop or something like that. And this was, for me, a lot about Freddie Draper again, getting a good shot away. Lovely to see that awful human being, Bradley Collins, fumble the ball in goal for them, because those who may not remember, he was the man that definitely did spit at Sean Raggett when we played Forest Green back in 2017, and he was on loan from Chelsea, and it was said not to be the case, but I got a video. Danny Cowley sent me a video to show me where he spat at him. He definitely did it. So it's quite nice to see him palm the ball away. And on the thumbnail for this, there's a lovely image of Moylan's got to the ball and Collins knows that he can't get to it, and he's just put his face on the floor before Moylan's even hit the ball. He's put his face on the floor. It was a nice moment for Jack, especially given all his injuries, and what it means to him. You read an interview that was in the 42 where they didn't take out the swear words in the interview. It's so funny if you get an opportunity to read it. He says something about you've got to have the bollocks for League One, and he's something else. But yeah, it was good. And afterwards he said, I've been Dave Priest has been on at me to follow the ball in. So a classic kind of poacher's goal, real contrast to his first one, but something he was heavily involved in.
Yeah, it's just great for Jack coming back from that injury. It's great to have him back in the team. And I think I would almost describe him as unpredictable, but with quality. I talked about Justin Abitgru and said no one knows what he's going to do next, and neither does he. Whereas I think Jack does know what he wants to do next, but it is unpredictable. And I think that's challenging for opposition defenses when you've got somebody running at you, and what he's got the quality, and what is he going to do with it? Lovely little move with Fred. And again, strength to kind of get past their defenders. Great confidence to have a shot. Just to have a shot at goal. Sometimes we've seen our players, not taking the strike when maybe they could or should have. So great confidence there. And yeah, Jack says that he's been practicing or working on in training, following in on the bits. And it's always nice because obviously we don't see what they do in training. And when they, when there's little passages of play that you can kind of see, oh, that's a nice triangle, you kind of think, I bet they've practiced that in training. Or a set piece move where you go, that's off the training ground. But it's always really nice when something happens and they say, we've been working on that in training, and there's like a direct correlation and then it happened and it was successful. I find that really satisfying. So yeah, great to see him. He's super Jack Moylan. He's the man everyone's talking about at the moment in the squad. I think it's just great. It's great to have him in the side.
Yeah, it is. He's a fan favourite. And last season, I remember saying one of the reasons I thought we weren't top six material is because too few of our players didn't turn up for like 30% of the games, or they weren't at their best. There was Ethan Hamilton, there was, let's be honest, Ben House, Rico Hackett, Conor McGrandle. So there was players that you felt, if they were at not at their peak, but if they were somewhere within the top kind of 10% of their performance levels every week, we finish third or fourth. If it's every 3 weeks out of every 4, we finish sixth. If it's 3 weeks out of every 5, maybe you don't. And I think that was an issue. Whereas this season, it's which of our players are a 10 out of 10 for 1 or 2 games. Like Rico has been superb in certain matches. Tendai has been superb. Adam Reach has been superb. And they kind of swap who's going to do that, a little bit of unpredictability or all the hard work. The man of the match usually is a debate, but there's always normally one that stands out. There's very few games where we come away and go, it could be for any one of 4 or 5, but those games do happen as well. Mm-hmm. And that's the difference. That's the difference between being 2nd or 6th or 10th when you're us, because everything we do is about hard work. It's about all the cogs in the machine. It's about everybody pulling the weight, being greater than the sum of our parts. So what you need is Jack Moylan to come up with 2 goals and his magic every so often. Or if it's not him, it's Rico. Or if it's not him, it's like Luton Town when it was Ben House. And I just think that's something that we have particularly got. Now, at least two of our last 4 matches against Burton, I think at Sincilbank, I might be wrong, excuse me, have seen us finish with 10 men. We should probably have finished with 10 men this game, because I've watched the 2 fouls back. Now, in fairness, it's just 2 fouls. And I think this is the sort of refereeing that I've kind of highlighted before. Do you remember? You might not remember. I think it's before you joined the pod. It might not have been last Boxing Day when we played Shrewsbury. And I was furious because Mal Benning kicked the ball away or something, got booked, and then minutes later put in a challenge that was a bookable offence, and the ref let it go. And I think that's what he's done with Alfie Lloyd. He's booked Alfie Lloyd for a blatant shirt pull. Yeah, it's a yellow card, 100%. Alfie Lloyd, by the way, he gave the sort of debut that Jack Vale gave, and I hope that that's not prophetic, because I remember Jack Vale coming on and he was like, Poppy power, I'm going over here, I'm going over there, I'm going everywhere. And that was kind of what Alfie Lloyd wanted to do. He was just chasing everything, like, I want to make an impression. And the guy got away from him, pulled him, yellow card. A couple of seconds later, he's gone. It's a lunge. The player's played the ball. He's played the player. Anywhere else on the pitch and any other time, any other player, I think it's a yellow card. I think the referee just went, do you know what? I've literally just booked you. It's your first bad foul. I'm going to let it go. But I can understand Burton being aggrieved at that. Not that going down to 10 men on 91 minutes would have been too detrimental.
No, I can't argue much with that either, to be honest. I think that's the exact kind of decision the referee has made. And while it's probably not the letter of the law, it's using a bit of common sense, which I think wouldn't go amiss on some referees these days. A little bit of common sense. It reminds me of sort of like, like Joe Gardner, when he sort of came on and he got sent off, didn't he? That kind of, I'm really enthusiastic and I'm going to run in and I'm going to slide and I'm going to, just that kind of keenness. Running, he's gone in too hard and he's got sent off. Was that kind of a debut?
Yeah, it was. So final whistle goes. Now, I don't know if you saw this. I didn't see it, but I was chatting to Rob yesterday. He made me aware of it. Apparently, Gary Bowyer refused to shake Tom Shaw's hand. And then there were what could be described as scenes at the end where there was a little bit of kind of pointing, and the little bald fella that was next to Gary Bowyer at the end got involved, and there was words exchanged and a few other things. And I find that quite interesting, because I'm not sure what it is that Burton would be particularly aggrieved about, because it was physical and we did commit some fouls, and the fouls that we committed were booked. I think we got 2 or 3 bookings in the space of a minute, and I think we're back up to the top of the booking table again in the division. We're really kind of showing our colours a little bit. I'm not really sure why he wouldn't shake hands. There was no clash particularly on the sidelines. There was a couple of contentious decisions, but as we've shown, we were on the right side of 1 or 2 and the wrong side of 1 or 2. And for me, that kind of, it just a little bit let down what Burton did, because one thing that I think we do when we go away and we put the sort of performances in that Burton did against us, that hard battling, okay, you lose the game. I just think today's managers tend to show a little bit more grace than that. And Tom Shaw as well. I mean, pick on Tom Shaw. Do it to David Priest, who's like 6'4" with a beard, who looks like he rips phone directories. Do it to him instead. Anyway.
Yeah, it's a little bit of it's not great, is it? It leaves a little bit of a sour taste in the mouth, that kind of thing. It's not sportsman like. There's no sportsmanship, and the game's over. You've done. Everyone's done what they've done. You can't change it. Just shake hands and move on, I say.
Yeah.
Grow up.
McKiernan. Yeah, grow up. We loaned you JJ McKiernan. We've beaten you 3 times this season, so there's no question about who's better. We deserve a win against Burton because we've lost 4 in a row. I mean, to be fair, one of those defeats did mean Mark Kennedy got sacked, so it's not all bad. But anyway, so that is the first half of this. That's the first half of the Stacey West podcast. Anything more you want to pick up on Burton, Emily, before we?
The only thing I've written in my notes, which is just a small aside, is that because of the weather conditions, I would like to put forward a pitch for Tom Hamer to have a special shirt made that's got like toweling on the inside front, so that when he puts the ball under his shirt to dry it before a long throw, it's sort of made of towel. Sure, can we get one? Can we get one of those sort of made and sent in to the club?
Yeah. Normally, if I'm doing this podcast and Chris is on, I said, Chris, anything more? And he comes back with a barrage of numbers. He comes back with number wang. And you ask Emily, and she comes back with toweling shirts. So
that's not my game. I am all about the number van is not my game. It's all about shirts and I'm the ideas man.
You're the ideas man. You're the ideas man. Right. Let's go to a quick break and we'll be back again. Sound right. We'll have a quick look through everyone who's on board. Unbelievable. 122 people watching us at the moment. So I'm not going to pick up all of the comments because I get overwhelmed a little bit. So Flossie always first on at the moment. So welcome. Always joined by some of the usual suspects, and that's I mean that in a bad way. So Gerard, Dominique is one of our usuals. Richard that's an unusual surname. G9Z1E sounds like a Wi-Fi password. He's on. Devon Imp never misses out. Hello to Saxelby Imp. Hello to not one I've recognised before, but I'm sure you've been with us before. 375 AF. Steve Jollins very kindly donated 2 tickets for the 200 Club, and my mate Ross took his son, and they had a wonderful time. So thank you for that, Steve. That was really appreciated. And while Ross doesn't go to the games much, I do. So when I see you, I shall buy you a pint. John Bates, who has had me as his guest in the Legends Lounge, Morecambe at home, last couple of years ago. I think we won 2-1, and it was around my birthday. A good evening was had by all. Mummy Rook, one of the Parliament, is in. She's calling us Gamily, which is, definitely my toe.
I'm not sure.
Hutchin Rook doesn't really have the name to it, does it? It sounds a little bit like a horror movie series to me. I'm not sure whether that's quite. Yeah. Ollie H is in. The Poultry Agenda. Cheese. That is just the most random comment we've ever had. I absolutely
was it when I was talking about Agadoo? Was it when I was talking about Black Lace?
It could have been. I just thought some randomer had come in and just written cheese on there. We had a lovely cheese board yesterday, by the way, at the Pessimist. So it's like a grazing thing, and it was like cheese and meats and things like that. It's very good. Joe Wellborn is in. Gaz Nicholson, Ian Tinkler, David Larder. Daddy Parliament is in. Malcolm Johnson says, I hope I haven't missed much. You could tune in on 50 minutes and not miss a huge amount, Malcolm, but it's great to have you on board. Graham Bubs Burrell is in now. Very, very special game for Bubs, by the way, on Tuesday night. It will be his 1200th game photographing Lincoln City as a volunteer.
Amazing.
But we found that out by counting all of his programs, press passes, team sheets and everything to work it out. Can you imagine that afternoon? Got 1, 2, 3. Good God.
Laid all out in the living room.
Yeah, and the kitchen and the lounge and the attic. Yeah, brilliant stuff. Keith's on. Hello, mate. Jordan Lincoln is on. Any news on Reach? New contract? No comment. OG is on. Up those pesky promotion pushing imps. I like that. Sue's on board. Hello, Sue. Walter is often on with us. Hello, Rob Stainton. I am going through everybody on. I look at that. There is Dave Tuplin. There's Dave Sandel. There is Phil Bennett. I'm not looking at any of these questions because I don't have time, I'm afraid, to answer them, but I'm hoping that we'll pick up on some of them through the course of the show. Craig Harvey's on. Hello, mate. David Ward is on. Hello, Dave. Gary Brooks. Jacob. Don't want to miss Jacob out. Long-time podcast fan. Hello, Jacob. There's another Ollie. And now I am overwhelmed. Molly. I've seen there's a Molly. So there's an Ollie and a Molly and a Mark. And there's a Gaz. Lucas Agenda, yes, 90 songs. His name's Luke. I would change my name, mate, to the Poultry Agenda. I think that's brilliant. Do you have a podcast or something? Or is it just a random handle? I love that. My poultry used to have an agenda, by the way. They were agenda poultry types. And Mr. Spooky is on as well. So there we go. Thank you to everybody. Actually, I think the strange surnames might be because Walter's got one as well. I thought Walter came on Facebook and he's now on YouTube. So that's good. Just for the studied poultry at uni. So that's brilliant. Well, Luke, look, thank you, mate, for joining us. Absolutely brilliant to have so many people on board. So we will come back on in a minute when we're going to be talking about Bradford City, new signing, Have we got anything else?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and we're going to plug the deadline day special, aren't we? So there we go.
Yes.
Right. Hello and welcome back to episode 441 of the Stacey West podcast. Actually, do you know what? Wouldn't it be? We really should do something special for next week's podcast because it's 442. Everybody's favourite formation, number 442.
Yeah. Yeah. Pick your ultimate Lincoln City 442.
Oh, do you know what? We might have to do that. Well, you'll have games to look forward to. We'll be reviewing Bradford, looking forward to Wigan. So, yeah, maybe we'll have a look at that. I might just pick mine and do it as an article. Anyway, you haven't come here to listen to us plan our content, which we do in other meetings that we don't always hold on our Discord channel. So there we go. Right, this morning, everybody woke up to a 9 o'clock announcement, which wasn't expected, apart from obviously by me, because we got it on embargo the night before. Again, playing into that whole working at the weekend. So I have now forgotten how to pronounce his name. I think it was Elerewe. I think I Googled it. So Deji Elerewe. We'll call him that until we get corrected. And if Luke is watching from the media team, as he so often does, he may put it in phonetically for us. So Deji Elerewe. Bromley, 6'5". I think he's 22 years old. I mean, he's big. He has to dip to get through doors. Probably nobody expected us to sign a central defender, but we have. For me, real big hints of like Cohen Bramall, Regan Poole signing. I mean, I know Regan came from League One when we signed him, but that kind of deadline, January window, there's a contract running down. We're going to pay a fee to get in ahead of the madness for the contract. I understand that there might have been some interest from Wickham. I understand that there was a little bit of interest from Charlton, where he came from. I think they had a first refusal on him. My understanding is that we've paid a low six-figure sum, which is still a six-figure sum, which is a lot of money. What was your initial take, Emily, on this situation?
Well, yeah, I was like you, sort of surprised we'd signed a centre-back. Wasn't quite expecting it. I've got a good friend who works with me called Toby, who is a Charlton fan. So I messaged him and said, Deji Elerewe, ? And he said, can't remember him. So that was a good start. But he did say that if he's come through he came through the Charlton Academy and did make it into their first team for some of I think it was like the Papa John's games. And he was like, that is often a good sign of a player with potential. So I trusted him on that one. And I think that's really what it feels. It feels typical Lincoln City, picking a good player from a good young player from the kind of, lower than us in the leagues, that fits our profile, that has great potential. And I mean, it's going to sound really obvious to say, but all probably worth saying, he's not going to come into the starting 11 and start playing. That's not why we've signed him. And like I say, it's a very obvious thing to say. And I'm sure we're all intelligent enough to know that. But, we've spoken about on this podcast the likelihood that Lewis Montsma may be going out of the club, which does kind of remove one of our defensive options. So to have somebody who's been performing at a really high level at the top of League Two available, if we need him, great. But yeah, long contract as well. I think it was it 2029 with an option, another year option or something like that on it. So another long contract. So they obviously see Deji developing with us. So while I was surprised with that signing, it wasn't what I expected. I actually feel very pleased and very happy with it, and it just feels very much Lincoln City, doesn't it?
It does. So Luke has replied quickly. So he is watching. So hello to Luke. He says, let's just go with Deji for now. So I don't want to get it wrong. If we get to interview him, we'll get to understand how to pronounce his surname. I've been notoriously bad at this. I remember practicing Danun Lundaloo in the mirror in the bathroom before coming onto the first podcast. Now, what I will say is, I think this is. We say it's very Lincoln City. It is probably what we saw as when we were operating under the model, as everybody used to term it, and the entire focus was kind of on younger players, I think it fits. I feel like this is more of a Peterborough signing, if I'm honest, because like when we signed Cohen Bramwell, we signed him, but he had some attributes, but there was some attributes that we felt probably were missing, and it wasn't like it felt like he was a player that was coming in who was going to accrue massive value. He was going to come in and add something to the group, the pace and the unpredictability. But for me, this guy coming in, everything I've looked at his stats. Chris did a brilliant deep dive, which is well worth a look. It just seems to me like he's on a collision course with the Championship again. And like the lad from Walsall, I think it was a Kagbu, who Peterborough signed in the summer. It kind of feels like that. Like we've taken one of the highest performers. It's not, the top of the league. We've taken one of the best players from the team at the top of the league. When we took Bramwell from Colchester, they weren't top of the league. Well, it's like when Dacris Cogley left Tranmere, and I know it's slightly different because he was a free agent, but he was one of the top players in League Two. Where did he go? He went to Bolton. So when we were signing from League Two, it felt to me like we were signing kind of players with potential. We were signing players that have done relatively well. For me, we have signed one of the best players in League Two. And so it feels like a Peterborough move. It feels like we've not signed him for a nominal fee of like 10,000 or whatever, like we may have done in the past. It's a good fee for a really good player. I don't think we're expecting him to start against Bradford, but I would not be surprised if we don't see him getting regular minutes fairly quickly. In that, I think he's going to battle with Adam Jackson as backup for Tom Hamer. I think Tom Hamer's our starting right-sided centre-back. But maybe if we play a Saturday, Tuesday, and there's a little bit of a question mark over, if Tom's taken a knock, we don't have to risk it anymore. I can see him coming in. And when you look at him, you're talking 6'5". This lad's a unit. He's a big lad. He's going to be the perfect target, actually, for Tom Hamer's long throws. So not quite sure how that will work, but same for the corners. You can imagine like David Priest and the other lad, his name briefly escapes me, so I apologise for that, who do the set pieces, sat around the table, and the door opens and this guy kind of ducks under the architrave and then stands up again. You could just imagine those two with their pens out of the set pieces just going, oh yes, because we can work with these raw materials.
Yeah, no, do you know what? I think it's a really good point, actually. It feels I think we've always kind of looked, when we talk about the model, we've always sort of looked up to Peterborough as they're doing it right. They're where we sort of want to get to when they start, having those big sales, which brings in the money, and then they can then start.
Lost Emily?
They can start.
Has everybody lost me? Right, I think we've got Emily back now.
Sorry, I was here the whole time, but I don't know who wasn't.
No, I don't. If you're in the comments, who wasn't here the whole time, so we know what's if you want to just pick up
Shall I start again?
Yeah, you pick up your thing. I've made a little note. It's the first time I'm going to have to edit audio for ages.
Okay. I think that's a really good point, because I think that we've always sort of looked up to Peterborough. When we talk about our model, we've always looked to them as the team that's doing it well and is at a similar kind of level to us. So I think that can only be a good thing if you feel it's like a Peterborough signing. But it kind of, it's almost like it's Lincoln City, but elevated. It's kind of the thing we always do, but rather than, signing a prospect potential player from, and I don't want to be cruel here, I'm going to say this to exaggerate, some kind of obscurity, some player no one's heard of, but then you kind of look into it and go, oh, actually, he's done quite well at some National League place, and actually it might turn out quite well for us. We are picking the cream of the crop that we know have potential. So it is like Lincoln City plus, Lincoln City extra. And maybe that's, our performance this season has been Lincoln City plus. The club's just moving in amazing directions at the moment. I'm so excited about it.
I can hear it in your voice. I've been around children's parties all day, and I'm so excited about this. Yeah, no, you're right.
But it is though, like everything: the signings, the sales, the performances, the league position, the investment. It's just bang, 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 just moving us up in terms of on the pitch, off the pitch. It's a real kind of boom time to be supporting the Imps, I would say.
Well, I'm going to do an article on this actually, because it was something Michael Horton said yesterday. He said, these are the days. So, when you sit down and you go, those were the days, like Brennan Johnson and Morgan Rogers, those were the days, or like Colin Murphy for people of a certain age, those were the days. Like, there's going to be a time in the future where we sit back and go, do you remember Skubala and we were second and we were beating Cardiff? Those were the days, weren't they? 5-2 against Peterborough, winning over Christmas, having Adam Reach sign in, and those were the days. And I found that really interesting. And I'm going to obviously develop on it a little bit for a podcast. So, apparently we were both fine. Neither of us went anywhere, but you disappeared off my screen for a minute, which is quite strange. So anyway,
how interesting.
Right,
they got to hear it twice.
We've got a game to preview, and we have approximately 8 minutes to do it. So that's quite exciting, isn't it? Quick fire. So Bradford City at home. I mean, it's a massive, massive game, because win this game, and I think the difference is 9 points, and they have a game in hand. So they then need a 6-point swing. Lose this game, and the advantage is kind of gone if they then win their game in hand. So it's one of those that it might well be a 6-pointer, but for me, you win the game on Tuesday and kind of almost, as long as we keep our form, end Bradford's opportunity to really overhaul us. And they've not had a great set of results. Yeah. Do you have anything you wish to say before I do some of the Chris style number type wanging?
I do have some bits to say, and I'll see if I can steal any of your number wangs with a few of my own little mini number wangs. I mean, you're right that every game is a massive game given where we are, but this one is massive, and it gives me Forest Green away vibes, although reversed, because that was a whole situation where if they'd have won, the gap would have opened and it would have kind of put us. It feels very much like that. Things that I have written down in my notes, in my research that I do. So Bradford are currently 12th in the form guide for the last 6 games, whereas we are first. And we're also first in last 10 games as well. Are you ticking off what I'm going to... Yes,
I'm scribbling off my research.
They are a little bit more inconsistent away from home. And they lost away at Huddersfield at the weekend, which was, a big result for us in terms of their league position against ours. And they had an XG of only 0.16. And I had a quick look online as to kind of what fans were saying after the match, and they were describing it as feeble and pathetic. So that's interesting. They also talked about how they need to start better. They don't start games well, or they haven't been starting games well. And we know that we can start games well. So I think that bodes well for us. Andy Cook has gone on loan to Grimsby, one of their players. He's gone there now, and they've recently brought in quite a few players on loan in this transfer window as well, some attacking options, so that might kind of strengthen them going forward a little bit. But yes, hit me with what you've got left stats wise, and then I might come up with a bit of a prediction.
Well, as XG is pretty random, I did have a look at their recent matches, and in terms of creativity, they're not massively impressive. Y-Scout had it at 0.25, which is still low. 0.92 at Blackpool. In the away table, the overall away table for the season, they're actually 7th. They've only won 4 games away from home. Their recent run has been patchy, I think is fair to say the least. They've been losing and winning games. They draw very few, which is funny, because when we drew with them 0-0, it was like their 4th draw in 5 or something like that. And since then, they've only drawn a single game. I think there was lots of predictions that they were eventually going to feel the heat a little. Bradford City, I think, will be a League One side next season, but I think that they'll be a strong League One side. They're a big club. They're only going to keep getting better. I look at their squad now, it doesn't blow me away. They're another one that's greater than the sum of the parts, like Stephen Humphreys and Curtis Tilt and players that you would think are past their best, but then some people might look at us and go Sonny Bradley and Adam Reach. So, let's not underestimate them at all. Tactically, it's going to be interesting because they tend to play a 3 at the back, so like a 3-4-2-1. I think they're going to come to Sincil Bank and look not to get beat. And when you are a team that do that, it is easy to say, as you say, they looked poor or they looked gutless, or it was, they not surrendered, but it can be quite hard, I think, to then impress your supporters. There is the whole situation of us being that kind of link between the clubs, and it's a more emotional night, and that can sometimes change things. It can sometimes change the balance of the game. I also think it's really important to note that we had 2 days rest. So we had we had Friday and Saturday. So we may be a little bit more rested. We may be a little bit more refreshed. I personally think it's going to be a tough game, of course, but they're going to be fighting for their lives because they know that if they have automatic aspirations, this is the sort of game they have to take something from. And I think if you were to ask anybody around the club, they wouldn't say this out loud, but if it was an off-the-record conversation, I think people would say, do you know what, if we don't get beat in that game, that's outstanding for us.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair enough. I think I'd be quite happy with a point, really. As long as, a point keeps the distance, doesn't it? We all want Lincoln City to win all the time, but I think you have to kind of be, realistic, and a point just keeps that gap as it is, which would not be the worst thing in the world. Although it's one of those games where, and I don't know if I would be as bold as to actually do this in a proper prediction, but it's one of those games where we've gone into them recently going, that's going to be tough. That's going to be a hard game. It's going to be really difficult. And then we just win it. We just turn up and just win it. And we all come away feeling like, oh my God, are we good? It's got potential to be one of those, I think, as well. And if we come away and win that, I think that is huge, absolutely huge. And I don't think it's impossible. Impossible is just an opinion. I'm quoting Danny Cowley. I'm getting overexcited.
No.
An accident.
Yeah, I can see that. I think it's interesting that they haven't actually scored a goal against us since February 2011. When we beat them 2-1 at their place, and they haven't won at Sincil Bank and since September 2007. So we haven't played them an awful lot, to be fair. And when you think about the fact that they've been League One, League Two, we've been predominantly League One and League Two, apart from our 6 years out. We crossed over. I think they came down the year that we went up, so we kind of missed them in that. They're a decent side. They've got to be. They wouldn't be fourth in the division, but their recent form has left a lot to be desired. They lost 2-1 at Leyton Orient. They lost 3-0 at Mansfield. The last 2 games have shown a little bit of battling spirit. Cardiff and Huddersfield are 2 tough games, but they've been beaten in both. And they've got to take something. Now, if they've got to take something and they've actually built their success on not being beaten rather than going out and taking teams apart, I think that makes it really interesting. And it's impossible to predict because this Lincoln City team do things that go against not even the form, but the expectation. Like beating Burton, even conceding the goal. Like beating Luton 3-1 at our place. We don't always do what's expected. And I've only twice this season seen Lincoln play badly and get nothing. I've seen us play badly and get something, but I've never seen us play badly, and I've only seen us twice, and that was at Leyton Orient and at Rotherham. At home, we are formidable. We're second in the home table, but we've only lost one. The team that are top in the home form table, by the way, over the whole season, have lost, I think, 2 or 3 at home. I think it's 2, Cardiff. We don't get beat at home, and when you're like we are, when you're on the inside looking out, you are always worst case scenario. So you think about the Burton game and go, if we turn in that sort of performance against XXX, or are we automatic promotion? Well, if we just lose these games and Bolton win these, look at Bolton's next 6. That's it's inevitable. We all do it. It's easy to be pessimistic from the inside looking out. And then people from the outside looking in will go, Lincoln are going well. The Bradford fans will be looking at us going, they don't lose much. They find ways to win. They're resilient. They can do this. They can do that. It's Yeah, these are the games you live for. These are the days. These are the games you live for. Last season at this time, they are. We were getting to a point last season at this time where it was like, we can turn up and just enjoy the football. And I loved that because I wasn't interested in being nervous. I wasn't interested in worrying about whether we were going to win or lose. I just wanted to enjoy the game. But right now, these are the days. You win this game. And I think Bolton have got a relatively easy-looking run. But what is an easy-looking run? You know, I mean, Bolton's next few games, they're at home to Burton. Well, we're saying that looks easy for them, but look what Burton just did to us. And Bolton probably don't have the same strength that we do. You know, and then against Barnsley, then it's February by Valentine's Day, we'll be able to say unconditionally, in my opinion, whether we're automatic promotion hopefuls or playoff, because you play Bolton that day. If we get to the 14th of February and we still have a cushion in second place, then I'm going to start believing, I think.
That would be nice on Valentine's Day. The one true love of my life, Lincoln City.
Well, I can't say that.
I was going to say never lets me down, but it meant it has. It's worth.
Go on.
No, go on. I was making a point about football, which, you know, isn't a podcast.
Sod that. I made a fundamental error once by saying that on Valentine's Day, wishing the one love of my life, Valentine's Day, and then talking about Lincoln City. And my wife's mum, she was my fiance at the time, my wife's mum read it, and she was like, Gary, putting that out, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, not anymore. Now we can talk about football again. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's worth. And my other half doesn't watch. He doesn't like football. Doesn't watch this, so I know that I'll be fine. It's just absolutely worth bearing in mind that when we're looking at fixtures, you know, against Bradford and teams alike, and we're going, that's going to be a tough game. They are going to be looking up at us, going, that is going to Lincoln is going to be a tough game. So, I mean, ultimately, we're in a slightly better position than everybody else except Cardiff. So every other team has probably got slightly more worry about playing us than we do about them. It's like spiders, isn't it? They're more scared of you than you are of them. And that's not to say we shouldn't be, you know, thinking about these big teams and, you know, being complacent in it. But they're going to be looking at us and thinking, I do not want to go to Lincoln. And I would be delighted with a point. They're going to be thinking that about us. So, yeah, definitely worth bearing that in mind. And was it you who spoke about Bradford and said that you think they might fall away as the season goes on?
I mean, I said it a minute ago, but I did think I said it about 4 or 5 months ago. And that wasn't meant to be smarmy, looking down on them, League Two coming up, all that sort of thing. I just thought the way that they play is fair enough, because it's not massively unlike what we do. We are fairly similar teams. We don't want that. Neither team really wants the ball, but I think that we're better when we have to have the ball. But I think that they'll be around the top 10 in League One for the next 2 or 3 seasons, and then they'll either change manager and the ownership and it will go wrong, or they'll get promoted, because that's the size club they are. And I personally hope it's the latter. I want them to be promoted. I'd love to see Bradford City in the Championship. They deserve it. Their fans are long suffering. They've been away from that level for many, many years. And as a club, they've always been out. Brilliant with me, absolutely brilliant. I'll never forget going there as poacher, and like, you go away as poacher, normally the stewards say, don't walk to that bit, don't do this, don't do that. I went away and I was supporting, they were doing walking in a ginger wonderland. It was a Stuart McCall thing. I've still got the t-shirt. Brilliant. I just remember like them applauding and like Lincoln are great and all this sort of stuff. And I know when it kicks off, it's 2 tribes will go to war, Frankie goes to Hollywood, all that sort of thing. But I just think that mutual respect, and I know that it's born out of absolute tragedy, but over the years it could fade or whatever. I've just always felt people of Bradford have just been, they've just been good. They're just good. They're just good people. And I wish them, after this week, all the best. You know, I would love to see us overhaul Cardiff and then come second, but it ain't going to happen. So
you never know. It's not impossible, because impossible is just, I'm not going to say it again.
Yeah, somebody said to me yesterday in a group chat actually about the atmosphere at Sincil Bank. They said, since we've not been quite as good, the atmosphere's fallen off a bit, hasn't it, at Sincil Bank? And I said, do you know what? And this is in a WhatsApp, so it might lose its punch. And we have got one other thing to talk about, so my apologies. But at least there's no more Sweet Caroline. And if you ask me, that is just so good, so good, so good. And I thought that was absolute classic comedy, but apparently
Very
not.
good.
Right. So the final thing that we have to talk about is we're kind of plugging what's coming up, aren't we? So as I've said at the top of the show, for those that have joined late, if anyone has, there is some Ron Fowler content going out this week. So if you missed the start of the show, I've been incredibly lucky to meet Ron Fowler, do a quick interview. It is kind of I'm allowing Radio Lincoln, well, not allowing, but I'm not using the stuff that I recorded that was Radio Lincolnshire's. So they'll put their interview out. Ours will be completely different. It's exclusive, but it doesn't cover some of the stuff they did. So they're two different interviews. Both of them are going to be well worth listening to. Ron was a really fascinating guy. And just to tell a really small anecdote that I think is it just plays in a little bit to what type of guy he is. I wanted to give him something Lincoln City related as a kind of, he's come over from America, they're putting money in, and there's I'm not talking about anything like that we've discussed. You can wait for that. But I had a badge from the 75-76 season, and it was a Lincoln City Supporters Club badge. Actually, I've had two for a while. I'd got one, but so thought from the Stacey West, we'll give him this badge as a thank you, but also as a symbol of the fact that, it's 50 years since we won this, but this is a community club. This is a club, and I know lots of clubs are, but it's ingrained in the community. It represents Lincoln. We talk about 50 years ago now, and I'm sure those, like my dad used to talk about it, other people's dads will talk about it, Percy Freeman, John Ward. This is what it means, something. So I give him the badge just as that, as a symbol. And he insisted on putting it on for the interviews. It's like, no, I'll definitely put it on. And for me, it was that just kind of, it's a simple thing. You can't expect anybody coming from anywhere else to be hardcore, die in the wall, Lincoln City the first time you meet them. And, especially when they're coming from such a massive background, but it was just a little touch like that I really liked. So make sure you check out those interviews with Ron. They're really good when they drop. There's an embargo, etc. on them. So when they drop, make sure you check them out. And then there is the Deadline Day special, in which I'm probably not going to feature. So let me hand over to Emily to plug that.
Oh God. Okay. Yes, we are doing a Deadline Day. We are doing a transfer Deadline Day special. So we will be going live for a marathon podcast as per usual Deadline Days. Obviously, last time in the summer we had fantastic numbers of you watching and engaging and getting involved. So please do that again. We will be going live on Deadline Day from 4:30. So if you can clock off early, please do, where we will have hours and hours of content, Lincoln City related, League One related, maybe some exclusive little bits in there as well. So please tune in. Deadline Day from 4:30.
Yep, sounds great. So myself and Chris are actually in Germany this weekend watching two Cologne clubs, and then not Dusseldorf. Who were the ones that play in yellow? Dortmund, they're the ones. So we're going to Dortmund as well. We do get back. We may make it for the final hours of the show. But yeah, it's going to be pretty much the same as normal. We haven't actually asked Jez yet if he'll come on. I must approach Jez. It's just been such a whirlwind. We do have a great interview lined up, which I think will be of huge interest to people. A Lincoln City figure, might be a player, might be official. We'll keep it all a little bit, but that'll be worth seeing. Chris and I are going to record a segment. I think you guys have got some chatter all lined up. So yeah, that's our Deadline Day special. Deadline Day is Monday. I don't know why I'm looking at the calendar, because I obviously know when it is. My dog's just made me jump because he's just opened the door and snuffled in. So yeah, check that out. Who knows what happens on Deadline Day? Will there be signings? There may be, there may not. But Ben will be leading the show with Charlie and Emily and potentially a guest or two. You never know. So check all of that out. Lots and lots to come on the Stacey West podcast. Now, it just remains for us to say one thing, but something's been raised with me this week on social media. And I know now we're nearly 10 minutes over, so Chris will take the mic. It turns out that when we do the podcast, there are a number of our listeners that join in with the Up the Imps at the end.
Oh, fantastic. Yes.
So
Yes.
somebody has said to me that they join in. They see it bad luck if they don't join in with the Up the Imps. Somebody else said I do it, but only in the car when I'm on my own, so people don't think I'm mad. So wherever you're listening now, if you're listening live at home, you'll know it's coming up. If you're on the bus, if you're as Frank Turner once said, if you're sitting across from your boss with a earphone running up your arm, you're on a mobile device, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, we urge you to join in with our outro. And so all that remains to be said is on 3. 1, 2, 3. Up the Imps.
Up the Imps.